Okay. Hello everyone. As mentioned, my name is Tracy Omaramba, and I'm going to be performing a poem that is essentially about changing perspectives in the face of adversity, which is what I believe the reboot topic of this TED Talk is. I like to start off my poems with definitions of the topic word, just so we're all on the same page. Because I believe that one of the main purposes of poetry is to educate and inform, and so I hope that by the end of this poem, I would have impacted you with some knowledge that you didn't have before. To reboot is to switch off and then start again immediately. Power off, forcing the computer to start anew, something that alone it couldn't do. But wait, that's not really true, because see, I was reading the other day and the name boot for computers was derived from bootstrap, which was really a strap attached to a boot to help you get your shoe on. So when we think reboot, isn't it more self-help than community project? Now, I'm not saying you can't seek help at all. I just think it's a more personal journey. We all know the magical on-off switch, the one that any computer-related issue can be solved with, which is really convenient for machines. But see, as humans, we don't get the famous switch, but we get something better. And that's the ability to change perspectives, because see, perception in a world of adversity is everything. Our life is literally defined by what we put in our minds and in what light. Your perspective, at the very least, is an example of something only you can control, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about. Pretty long introduction, and if this is too deep for the intro, I'll find another use, but just in case it's perfect, let me introduce rebooting perspectives. Our story opens with two parents, excited to welcome their newly made daughter. She was Adele, and so her parents thoughtfully named her Adele with a hyphen in between, so it was one name. She was energetic, like all newly made devices, but like all laptops, her battery eventually declined, and this happened when her dad got infected. Highly contagious was the virus, so they could no longer share contact, and at first, she thought it was a joke. But then she had to watch as the virus ate at him one bite at a time, slowly watched as his health declined. What she didn't know about the virus was, it was a terminal illness. When her dad died, her CPU shut down, submerged in darkness. She had a system malfunction, and even though she was programmed to accept all outcomes, she couldn't quite follow those instructions. She was slipping into depression, and so her mom sent her to boot camp, where they told her the things they were programmed to. Unlike Adele, reading their code was no issue. They said everything she felt was normal. And as time passes, things would go back to normal, but she just couldn't picture that. Her GPU was too small. They told her not to wish for different because it wouldn't change anything, something she already knew. But if wishes were horses, then she would have been on the first Pegasus up to computer heaven. They said, try be more optimistic. And she momentarily wondered who wrote such a program. Regardless, she gave her word that she would try to think positive, but then the Microsoft Office crashed, and that was the end of that. Nightfall would come and she would switch to dark mode, but the issue always arose whenever she tried to shut down. See, there were always too many apps running in the background, and the next morning she'd go to class with eye bugs, try to focus even though her screen burned. And it was in that moment that she remembered what her dad would always tell her, that the value of one true friend over 100, because in times of sadness, a shoulder to cry on is better than a chorus of condolences. And there is a poem begging me to write myself as Adele and this as my story, but that would force me to face the fact that we are such a death-avoidant society that the only way I can talk about my dad's passing is through an analogy, but I've learned to accept it. See, that's another thing I learned through rebooting. I mean, Adele learned through rebooting. The algorithm for happiness lies in accepting the present, in what a moment is, rather than what it could be, should be, would be. If we cared a bit more about the inexperience rather than ignoring their existence, yes, death is sad, but it shouldn't be a taboo topic. Adele learns to view death through a different perspective. It's not meant to be sad. See, death Death is the celebration of life. Death is an exhibition of their gallery, an appreciation of their journey, a telling of their story. It's not meant to be sad, but it is. See, change in perspective doesn't mean we focus wholly on the good and ignore the bad. It doesn't mean Adele doesn't miss her dad, doesn't wish for better like every other computer. Changing perspective means seeing every situation in its entirety. It means seeing opportunity within adversity, blessings wrapped in pain and suffering, lessons in dark situations. A quote from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus: "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from the judgment about them." I'll explain this with another quote that goes, "What doesn't kill you makes you A, stronger, B, wish you were dead. One coin, two sides, and the ending is up to us to decide." Adele was tired of being tired. But despite this, she didn't give up. Deep down, she believed something just had to change. She couldn't quite explain it, but her intuition was telling her they'd be better days. An ad popped up on her screen, reminding her that she needed to pay for her monthly ad block subscription fee. Like all ads, it was enticing, with promises of happiness, and she was running quite low on serotonin, so she gave it a little click and a new tab opened. There was a little button to switch to Apple, and all it would take was one bite to download. Clinging desperately to hope, she thought, why not? That's when everything came crashing, like she just unleashed Pandora's box. Then a couple of blue screens later, the darkness disappeared, the running apps were closed. She could suddenly hear the OS was cleared, and she could move with ease, move with speed. Now this isn't to say that she didn't again freeze. Sometimes once a week, other times all 7 days of it. But it taught her the best way to reboot is bit by bit, because even for machines, there's no instantaneous fix. It's a journey through the stages of grief and self-discovery, and the first step of that journey, is giving up the hope that the past could be any different. Thank you.